Hello everyone! Thank you so much for coming to Graphicsly's Clip Studio Paint Character Design Workshop. In this 2-day workshop, 6 fantastic artists will present a different topic in their character design process, and we are excited to learn with you. I'm your host for the session, Joanna, and we have a few housekeeping items to go through. So this session is going to be approximately 60 minutes long. Please use the link in the pinned message in chat to ask your questions. Due to time constraints, we probably won't be able to answer all questions, but we'll do our best. Please respect the presenters during the sessions and only self-promote and exchange social media info during commercials. All sessions will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube on a later point as well. This workshop is brought to you by Graphicsly, the official distributor of Clip Studio Paint in North America, South America, and Europe. And we couldn't do this without the amazing sponsors Clip Studio Paint and Wacom. For those who don't know, Clip Studio Paint is a versatile graphics app best suited for drawing and painting to create a wide range of content with a wealth of unique features that helps to create anything from illustration over manga to concept art and animation. Whether professional or hobbyist, Clip Studio Paint's natural drawing feeling, along with its comic and manga features, is loved by artists from around the world. And built specifically with artists in mind, Wacom's renowned pressure-sensitive, battery-free digital pen tablets and pen displays allow countless artists around the world to realize their creative visions. On to the presenter of today. Expressions can say many things about characters without words. We have gotten the amazing Miyuli to present this topic, who is an expert on making characters come to life. Miyuli is a comic artist currently working on the webtoon original series Morgana and Oz, and she has studied 2D animation in film school and does illustrations and character designs. And with that, I would like to pass the mic over to Miyuli, so she can introduce herself again.
Okay, cool. Hello. Can everyone hear me? That's cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the very kind introduction. And thank you everyone for coming to hear me ramble about drawing expressions. Okay, so expressions, what are they? That's probably not something anyone would ever ask, because expressions, like reading expressions, is usually something that we learn from basically the moment we are born. So a lot of the things that I might tell you in this workshop will seem kind of obvious, but I still hope it will be useful as like for artists who might not have like the tools they want to express what they normally can read in others. So a little bit about my work and my perspective on this, my point of view. I have a little bit of expressions here. I do mostly comic work, so my characters and my expressions that I draw are pretty simple, and I try to use as few lines as possible to to protect my hand from overwork. And when I first design a character, especially if it's a main character, I usually also draw a character expression sheet. And here are some examples of that, where I just explore how the character would, which expressions this character would normally make, how like their faces might, squash and stretch in certain situations. Just, to explore the character, because there are a lot of things that are unique to characters and don't always appear for every character. There are a lot of, like in real life, there are a lot of things that might be genetic or might be personality based, where it's it depends on how the character generally conducts themselves. So this is a little bit about my work. And if you don't hear anything useful in this workshop, I wanted to also recommend a few artists that I find very inspiring. So a couple of my inspirations we have here. Everyone probably knows Mr. Oda, who is drawing One Piece. And I think, for me at least, it has one of the best like ugly cries that I've ever seen. So I really recommend studying his expressions. I especially enjoy like the apart from the ugly cry, the surprised face, especially this one, is my favorite. And he is very good at exaggerating expressions, even though he has a rather simple art style. This is kind of what I find really inspiring about this specific artist. Another recommendation I have for something a bit different is Mr. Urasawa, who is who has drawn like Monster and Pluto and 20th Century Boys. He is more on the realistic side of things, and he is like a master of drawing subtle emotions. And even like in Pluto, he is just great at depicting robots with emotions. He is like a master at using sequential art. Okay, we see here this robot doesn't really have flexible parts that show emotions, and yet the human eye will probably still see emotions, and this whole scene might appear very, very emotional. Or he is also very good at drawing like human characters who human looking characters who have, for example, very serious faces like Inspector Gesicht. But when this character eventually shows very strong emotions, it's like the whole scene becomes very, very effective. So this a little bit as an introduction and some recommendations for inspiring masters of drawing expressions. And before we get to the actual fun part, just wanted to mention that when we draw expressions, unfortunately, we have to learn about anatomy, at least a little bit. I don't recommend learning every bone and muscle there is in the face, but it can be pretty helpful to know the basics, especially when it comes to bone structure and how the muscles are attached where are the squishy parts that you can squish or stretch depending on your needs. Also, where could wrinkles be, where things will squint and squish. This can be you can study that separately, or you can also study it together with expressions. Either way is pretty effective. For the bones, I have a couple of reminders here that even though like the teeth are not necessarily expressive or like flexible themselves, just showing them the amount of how much you see them and where and how much the jaw moves can be very can indicate a lot of the expressions that we want to achieve. Okay, next we have a little bit about, I wanted to mention that I won't talk in too much about realism because my style is very stylized, and the expressions that I do are mostly a little bit more exaggerated and also stylized, which is connected to a little bit of different proportions that I try to show here. That things might differ from realistic proportions, and if you want to draw expressions and faces in a three-dimensional space, it's good to know what your proportions of your characters are, and try to imagine them from different angles. Okay, now I think we can actually get to the fun part of this presentation, why you're all here probably. It's about drawing expressions. And apparently there are at least 6 universal facial expressions. I just recently found out there are actually 7, and I'm going to talk about the 7th one in a second, but I wanted to kind of introduce these basic ones. But instead of just showing you, I thought I would just demonstrate a little bit of how I approach them. I'll put these up here like a cheat sheet. Whoops, too many cheat sheets. And just draw these expressions for you, and kind of tell you what I pay attention to and the parts that are very important. And at the end, you will find out what the 7th expression is. You can feel free to guess until we get there. So first, because I am drawing on a pretty tight weekly schedule, I sometimes use like presets or assets. So I wanted to kind of start out with a bit of a base here, so I don't have to draw everything from scratch, but maybe I will later, so we'll see. So first we have, of the character that we want to draw, we have to kind of know what the neutral expression is, because some characters have what people might call the resting, face. But, this kind of depends on your character. The thing that I want to talk about, I want to simplify the things a little bit so that you won't get too overwhelmed. So the most expressive parts of a face, in my mind, are basically the eyes and the mouth. For the eyes, I kind of include the eyebrows. Let's make it like a mask. We have the eyebrows. Yeah. Then the other thing we have to pay attention to is the upper eyelid and the lower eyelid. Those three things can tell us quite a lot about the expression that we are going to be drawing. Then the other important thing is, of course, the mouth, where we have first the upper lip. You can, it depends on your style if you draw it or not, but just be aware that it's there, even if you, don't render it in a very detailed manner. Then we have, of course, the lower lip, and what I also consider important are the corners of the mouth. So we have like these 2 sets of things that are going to be important and that I will kind of talk about when I draw expressions. Okay, this is kind of like the basics. Let's just draw. Let's start with a happy face. Like a happy face, usually what we kind of, when we think of happiness, we think of a big smile. So we will probably see, first of all, the happy face in the mouth area. So we have the mouth corners are, everything is facing up. I mean, usually it's a little bit more symmetric. This character in particular tends to have asymmetrical expressions, so that's kind of what I tend to do by default. But then we also have to consider that a genuine smile reaches the eyes. So we have the lower eyelids that are going a little bit up. The upper eyelids, I think, they don't really do much in this case. They might squint a little bit down so that the eyes are very squinted because of the smile. We can also, exaggerate it a little bit more. Go like this. Of course, there are more parts to an expression that I mentioned. We have, well, for example, we have the nose, which I usually don't do much with because it's not the most flexible part of the face. But we can add wrinkles here and there. We have also like the cheeks that I kind of neglect. And with a smile, we usually have pretty relaxed eyebrows. This is kind of like the just like the typical smile. It's not, for me at least, it's not the most exciting expression to draw, to be honest. But you know. So this is the first one. Then let's go to the next one. I'll pick not like a front view, but what is this view called? Not a side view. It's not a front view. It's the thing in between. Okay. So next expression is going to be, let's go for sadness. Sadness, again, we have the eyebrows that are going up on the inside. They can also go down to make the expression a little bit more to be a little bit more intense. I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity and different views of the head a little bit later, maybe, hopefully, who knows. Okay, we are drawing sadness, right? So for the sadness, the eyes might also, let me check, they might squint, they might also be closed because of, you know, lots of tears. Kind of whoop, like this. And then what's interesting, what I've kind of been a little bit underestimating before is how big of a role the mouth area plays. Because we can, I mean, it's pretty easy to just make, you know, the corners, just put them a bit down, make it like that. But I also feel like the lower lip can add quite a lot of intensity. Like if we do it like this, it might look a little bit too, not very serious, who knows? Depends on the situation you want to go to. You can also draw like an open mouth and pull the lower lip all the way up so that it's kind of, there's a lot of tension here. Like the mouth tries to stay closed, but it's really hard it's really hard to do. And like the emotions just, you know, flow out. That's kind of one of the things we see in the ugly cry, where like the mouth gets distorted. I think I like the closed mouth better. Oh well. Let's just go with this one. Usually when I make expression sheets or study expressions, I don't use the same head. It depends, but usually not, because to enhance an expression, it's also very, very helpful to use head tilts, or to have like the head overlap the throat, the neck, stuff like that. I can talk about that a little bit later, but right now I just want to explain the basic expressions, which might take a while. Let's go for the front view again. One other thing about views is that usually when you want to show emotions, you want to have a pretty good view on the face, to show all the facets of the face. So if there's something blocking the face, the expression might also become a bit more ambiguous, and the readers or your audience might not be too sure what the character is feeling. But that might also be your intention, that you want to make kind of a very unreadable expression. Just a little side note that I heard from some kind of facial expression scientist, is that we usually, when there's an expression does not, like one half of the expression doesn't fit the other half, that usually the human brain reads it as something is off. Like if like one half of the expression is kind of smiling while the other one looks kind of angry, we have like just small indicators that one half is angry, the other half is kinda not so angry. I mean, it might look off, it might not look off, really depends on your situation, or if it kind of indicates that there's something going on with the character, that the character is thinking something and have like conflicting feelings like that. It's like not expression you can really sum up in a word very easily. And usually there's like half of the face looks very friendly, while the other half looks pretty angry. So that's just a little side note. I didn't actually mean to talk about that. Next expression. Let's go with, because I already kind of started it, let's go with anger. There's also an expression that this character shows a lot, so it fits pretty well here. With anger, we have, again, the eyebrows that I usually, like before, I just thought the tilt of the eyebrows would be enough to show enough like anger. But anger is usually a pretty intense emotion. So we might want to show a little bit more anger, like the whole thing a little bit more intense. So with that, I would recommend pushing the eyebrows like all the way down to the eyes, maybe even overlap the eyes. The more they overlap, the more intense the expression will be. And the thing that you can do even better is to tilt the whole head a little bit forward. That would enhance this angry expression even more. And then we also have, of course, wrinkles that form here, like this or like that, kind of like this. Yeah. So in general, don't be afraid to push the eyebrows all the way to the eyes, like have them touch. I think that usually shows the best expressions. And then for the mouth, we can again just pull the mouth corners down, have the chin, the lower lip, have them show a little bit more tension, and we are practically done. But what's even more fun is to open the mouth and show some teeth. With this character especially, because it's this character is a vampire, I really enjoy drawing and showing his teeth and even like his gums, kind of like that. Before I showed you how the jaw is kind of rotating from the skull. So instead of drawing like teeth like this, I prefer to indicate the location, rotation of the jaw, kind of go more like this. You can also again show a little bit more intensity here. And with this expression, when the mouth is wide open, we would also go and change the jaw a little bit. I mean, you can also do it a lot to intensify the expression. And the more you push it, the more intense it's going to look like. Even you can add a couple of wrinkles, or here, the wrinkles look good here. But as I said before, I usually try to go with as few lines as I can. And this is about done for this expression. Whoops. Where am I? What was I gonna do? This. Sorry, I slipped. Let's push it back here. I keep slipping. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, next expression. What are we going to draw next? We have 3 down, 3 more to go. And I thought for the next 3, I'm going to use my other character who shows a little bit less teeth. Okay, which this one? Which expressions are left? We have, what do we have? surprise. Surprise is actually the expression that's kind of the hardest for me because there's a lot of stretching going on. It's also the longest expression, facial expression, because everything is stretched. But yeah, let's go first to the eyes. We have everything is stretching upwards. So we have the eyebrows that are stretching up. I mean, because of the hair, you won't really see that too much, but let's pretend she has see-through hair. And then we have, I mean, her base expression already shows a lot of the white of the eye. But for a surprised expression, I would go for a really rounded face, rounded eye shape, and also maybe even consider making the irises smaller, even though it's not very realistic, but who cares? We have the nose, it doesn't really do anything. I guess it gets stretched out a little bit. And then we have the mouth. Mouth shape, we have two mouth shapes that we can go with, either like a very stretchy O type of mouth, like that. I've actually been doing that myself today when studying. And I found this is kind of the more relaxed surprised expression. We can also have the mouth a bit wider open, like the mouth corners, stretch the mouth out. But I found that this causes tension in the neck, which, we can do if we want to, if you want tension in the neck. I mean, this feels a little bit wrong for this character. I feel like she would probably go with this shape a bit more. So we have this expression here. Whoops. Let me delete what's under that. And we have, what do we have left? We have disgust. Disgust is actually my favorite. But I'm not sure. I think, oh well, I'll still use her for disgust. I don't think she has made a very disgusted face yet. But, let's try that. I think it's like disgust can be a bit hard to draw because there's also a lot of squish and stretch going on. But it's super fun to draw, actually. I can show you a couple of cheat sheets and notes that I made of a disgusted face, if you want. Depends on how this goes. Okay, so disgust is first, well, when do we feel disgust? It's usually when we have like a bad smell, or we really like want to get away from something. So the eyes, as like in contrast to the surprised face, where the eyes are wide open because we try to see everything that there is to see. So the eyes are alert. When we are disgusted, we kind of try to get away and to close, almost like close eyes, maybe even close the eyes or just squint them because we don't want to see something or, smell something with our eyes because it's gross, very, very gross. So that's one important thing. The eyebrows I found can do several things. They can be up or down. I found that it's both works. Let's go with a little bit up. And there's a lot of tension, especially in this area with the eyebrows. The really fun part here is first the mouth. Like the mouth corners are trying to escape your face. They're like melting off your face, which if you push can be incredibly fun to draw. But also not only the mouth corners are important here, but the most important thing about a disgusted face is the upper lip, which is like it's stretched upwards. So we have the corners are to the side and the upper lip is upwards. We have a little bit of the lower lip pressing everything. If you want to make it a little bit more extreme and fun, we can add a couple of wrinkles here. And what I really like to draw is also show it in the neck, because like our face is our face normally is kind of like this. Our face then kind of wants to get away from everything, and it's like this, and wrinkles form here. And it's like ew, like ew. Like, everything tries to escape, and it looks super dorky, but can be really funny, especially if like there's no chin anymore. Like we have like this kind of situation. I don't know if this character would go that far. Let's just keep it moderate like this. I think it looks good enough. She hasn't done that face yet though. Oh well. So the sixth expression. I have forgotten. What is it? Fear. That's the one. Fear. Let's go with fear. Okay. So fear we usually see in the eyebrows. We have tension here. The eyebrows are kind of going in a direction like sadness, because we are worried. Fear is not a pleasant emotion. Then again, our eyes are wide open because we want to be alert. We want to, if there's something to be afraid of, we want to be ready to, to decide if we want to fight or flee from it, fight it, or flee from the danger. And the mouth, it can either like press down, or it can also have a more open expression. Open. Yeah, it can be open. We can have a little bit more tension with the chin, kind of like this. And that's it for fear. So, and now we have the seventh expression that I just recently found out is a thing. I don't know how many have already guessed what it is. But it's an expression that I actually draw this character with a lot. I thought it was like his base expression. I didn't even know what it was called. But the seventh expression, universal expression that apparently all humans, regardless of where they are, where they live, and stuff like that, and their upbringing, can understand is, drumroll, is contempt or disdain. And usually, maybe wait, let me show it to you with this view a bit more. Usually, what I heard disdain or contempt is basically a lopsided smile, kind of like this, like I showed before. But for me personally, that doesn't really work. I don't know if it's probably my style, or the lack of knowledge, who knows? But this doesn't necessarily express as much contempt as I want to express. So what I do instead, I keep it lopsided, but I don't do the smile. I'll just make it like this. I call it like contempt is for me like the half disgust. We can have it open or closed. Oh, let's leave it open for now, closed for now. There's tension in one mouth corner. Then we have, because this is the only universal expression that is completely asymmetrical. So we kind of show it in all of the elements. For example, we can raise one eyebrow. I don't even think we have to do it all on the same side. Let's go with this one. Let's exaggerate a little bit. Let's go a little bit higher. Whoops. Yep. Like this. Like the eyebrow goes high. The other one can either stay the same or go a little bit lower. We can add some wrinkles or no. And what I think also adds to a disdain expression, I don't know if it's just me, but whenever someone looks at you with contempt, I feel like their eyes seem kind of half closed. And I think that's like a sign of they're being relaxed. It's not like anger or any other emotion where there's a lot of tension in the eyes, but they're so relaxed. They feel so much contempt that you're kind of, you're beneath them and they really don't like something. And this is kind of the contempt expression that I end up with in the end. Yeah. This is, variations of this expression is kind of what the character does a lot. We can also open this, the mouth, and show like half of disgust. We have disgust here, but with the mouth closed. So we have just one upper lip that is pulled up. Maybe show some gums. Kind of like this. Can also be contempt. All right, these are the 7 universal expressions that we have. I didn't use the side view because I thought about talking about it individually, but I don't think I have time for that. So I might still do that, or just a couple of notes here and there. We have the same expressions, just as a side view. I have some more examples here. And with the side view, I wanted to talk a little bit about what's different from any other view and what we have to kind of rethink, because the side view is very, very expressive, but we do only have half of the face to work with. So it might be like half an expression and not that easily readable for some people. But the thing that is pretty easily to read, especially speaking of the silhouette, is again here, this part here. I'm not sure what it's called. It's like the glabella or the root of the eye or the eyebrow starting point. This part here. So it is very movable, flexible. As you can see, with an angry expression, it goes like this. With a more relaxed expression, it goes like that. With a surprised expression, we have this angle here. What we kind of have to rethink is how the eyebrows work, if you want to keep it realistic at least. Because the eyebrows wrap around, like this is from the front, what they might look like, and from the side, we have them wrapping around the form, which might cause a little bit of problems if you want to show certain emotions, because usually you would go for like if it's an angry emotion, instead of this, we go like that. And then what you would want to do, you might want to do, is just go like this, kind of like what you see from the front view. But the eyebrow actually wraps around, so the actual angle would be more like this, and it might overlap the upper eyelid. This is technically the more realistic version, but I think this is still more expressive. This is kind of a little bit of cheating. So if you feel like this just looks better, I would totally go for this one. The same thing also for a sad expression. Do I have sadness here? Guess this is sadness, I guess. I wanted to go a little bit for more open sadness, but to make sadness, you would usually go with this angle, but with this side view, it's kind of really hard to do. Maybe like this would be the correct angle. But again, I feel like you can just wing it, just cheat a little bit and just go like this. This might not be super realistic how the eyebrow moves, but it's way more readable and it reads a lot more quickly. So this is for the eye part. The rest is just, keep the shape of the eye in mind. And also, again, move the upper and lower eyelid to enhance your expression, as you can see, in these few examples. The other thing that we can see from the side very well is the whole mouth area, or also like the jaw and how it's rotating from up there to here, and how usually when we have a surprised face that the head is the head is tilting backwards. We have it like here, while the jaw is tilting like this, rotating here. So this is also quickly readable as an open mouth. And since we have the lips and the whole skin area in the front, I didn't do it before for some reason, but you can really push the lips out like that. It can be, super dorky, but I think it's super fun, depending on your needs, or even, on the expression that you want to show. You can also have the profile silhouette enhanced with a pouty mouth, like that. You can really, break the silhouette and show the expression like that, even though it might not be as expressive as the front and 3/4 view. But still, I would not underestimate the side view. Okay. I wanted to briefly talk about different angles, because it can be very hard to draw the head expressions in different angles, and I would be very careful about that, because usually when we talk to someone, we kind of look them in the eye, so we look for the eyes and the mouth. We want to have a clear view on that, so we have a clear reading of the expression. So when the angle or the perspective is off, then we don't really see all of the features that we might want to see to have a good read on the expression. So this can be either hiding an expression, or it can also in some cases actually enhance the expression. Like when we are sad, for example, we want to have like the head tilted down, as you can see here. Then we have a little bit of overlap going on with the mouth and with the nose. We kind of have the facial parts hiding, maybe in shame or in sadness. This can also, as I mentioned before, when I draw an angry face, I also like to tilt the head like here, because then we have more overlap with the eyebrows. We can add a lot more wrinkles like that, and it looks a lot more aggressive, because the whole head seems to be coming like at us. Then we also have maybe some expressions that work better if the head is tilted backwards, for example, with like this laughter, with like a very hearty laughter. It can really enhance the expression if we draw a huge mouth laughing. We don't have to, but I feel like this really helps. The other expressions, like this one, is a little bit harder to read, in my opinion. And I have a couple of pointers here that might be good to consider. If you want, from this angle, for example, we have the mouth corners that are important. Are they going a little bit up or a little bit down? Sometimes it's really hard to show the right expression, because they look kind of similar from certain angle. For example, with this kind of mouth shape, the mouth kind of, even though this is a sad face, the mouth corners, let's see where I've been drawing on, the mouth corners still seem to go kind of up. This would also be the correct, like the more realistic approach, but it ends up looking a bit like a sad smile. So I still cheat a little bit and put the corners of the eye a little bit down like this. We have, we really have to consider if we want, what kind of expression we want to have. Like if the corners of the mouth work in a certain direction, we might want to enhance it by tilting the head in that direction as well. So just a couple of things to consider here. What else do I have? Oh yeah, we don't have too much more time, but I just want to quickly go through my slides and then we can do some questions. I just briefly wanted to talk about intensity of emotions. And in comics, for example, you can actually make like 3 panels and show the progression of the emotion. And since we can see all of these 3 panels side by side or below each other, we can feel that the expression intensifies. Or also, you want to just see if the whole scene requires a more intense expression or not, or if the scene doesn't require a very extreme expression, but you still put it in, it can lead to a very comedic scene, a very comedic contrast. Really depends on what you want to go for. What else? Yeah, the last thing that I wanted to kind of touch upon is that we don't always have to stay like super realistic and to keep the face as realistic as we can, even with a more stylized style and approach. Especially when we draw comics and we want to convey an emotion very quickly. If it's not an important scene or if it's a very funny scene, we can just use symbols. It might depend on your audience, if they know the symbols that you're using, if they are kind of expecting it, if they like it, if they don't like it. If it's a younger audience, they might be more receptive to more symbols that you might use, like, yeah, I'll show you in the next slide. And you can also be very creative with symbols. I have a couple of suggestions here. We have we have expressions, we have elements that aren't very realistic, like what is this mouth doing, or what are these eyes doing, or like the mouth is, what's going on here? But it's especially, it's very easily readable, very quickly readable. And usually you want to use these kinds of expressions in a more lighthearted scene, in a more like funnier scene. Depends on really what you want to go with. It might come off a bit as cheap, but if you kind of find creative ways to show the character, to show, to come up with new symbols to use, you can also, I don't know, use this or like this kind of symbols to enhance the whole expression. This is kind of like more of a 90s symbol. You can break up the whole silhouette, like have the eyebrows leave the face, or the eyes kind of pop out like that. And I don't know what the mouth is doing here, but I thought it was kind of funny. Yeah, this is basically it. I can show you a couple of more of my cheat sheets, but this is it from me. We can take some questions now.
Yes, of course. First of all, thank you so much for explaining all of this in so much detail. I think
My
that
pleasure.
was very helpful for everyone. We have a lot of questions, so let's try to get through some of them. One of the top questions, actually, do you have any advice on drawing teeth? Which is very
Teeth.
specific, but yes. They seem to be very
Like,
important in your style as well. So
yeah, I mean, I like to see them myself. Where's the teeth? Here. So, I mean, you don't have to be super detailed or realistic with the teeth, but I have like the most important things here, where you have like the upper half of the teeth and the lower half, and you just have to be a bit like careful how they open. Like, don't make them parallel, but make them open more like this. As soon as I realized that, my expressions and my teeth got way better. And another tip that I have for teeth, like open mouth screens, that I just realized is you should be careful not to have the teeth go like this. If you draw the teeth, and like here, let's go like that. Not there. They don't go like that, but they usually look a lot better if you go a bit more like inwards with them, like this. These are like my 2 tips. Like, we're very quick tips for drawing mouth. Open mouth, like shouting mouth, is super fun to draw. Like, look at your own mouth and see how it kind of works in perspective. It's so much fun. I have a little bit of cheat sheets here, but I usually can't really remember that either, so I have to look at it a lot myself.
yeah. Speaking of looking at your own face, do you look at yourself when you're drawing expressions or trying to figure out how something looks for your characters?
Yes, of course. It's
Do you make the
I think
faces
that's
too when you draw them?
it's yeah, it's kind of like a cliche, but I think it's actually very, very helpful to feel the expression in your own mouth. Then you know kind of where to put emphasis on. And I also heard, if you do the expression, you start to have the feeling. So if you draw like a very sad scene and you make a sad face, and then you kind of get into a very sad mindset, and maybe that enhances the whole scene and drawing process, unless there are tears coming. That's going a bit too far, but I think using your own face and referencing your
Yeah.
own face, like I have a mirror right here when I draw. It's always there. Or I also
Yeah.
use the webcam and just take photos of my own face. It's like the best reference that you can get, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, because the face changes so much when you have different, like, very expressive expressions. Do you have any tips on how to keep a character consistent when drawing these expressions? Especially if eyebrows are very important and stuff like that.
I knew that would come. It's kind of a difficult thing. But wait, I try to indicate here that if you design your character with a specific face shape, usually like when you have a lot of characters and you have to draw them very quickly, I tend to go for similar head shapes, just because you know how one head shape kind of looks in perspective, and you don't have to imagine another one. But it's just very helpful if you have a little bit of like 3D help. And if you can like model yourself, you can just change the features, and then have them. First, you have to kind of see all those features in perspective, and then you can also start to imagine how the expression would change those features a little bit with. I usually just look at my own face and see how, like, if I from this angle, if I laugh, it looks like that, and if I frown, it looks like that. And it's kind of important to have like a 3D vision, which I am also very bad at. But for that, I also have another tip that I can give. For example, you can really see it, but you can like build your own face with like super sculpey or anything else. That might also help you with expressions. On first, you have to imagine and see your face and your character's head in 3D. And once you can do that, you can also modify the expressions and just look at your own face in different different perspectives and angles, and it's a whole lot of practice and experience and looking at a lot of people.
Yeah. Do you have any advice on how much to exaggerate expressions or like features to like to stay within a style, or and to keep it consistent again, I suppose?
That's a good question, but I think that if you, I mean, I think it's very fun if you exaggerate your expression. Like we have, for example, wait, here, like Oda does, for example. He doesn't. I mean, if he does exaggerate a lot, then his whole style changes. The
Mm,
all the features, all the proportions, they all change. And I don't think you should be so precious with your style if you think it enhances the expression. Like if you don't normally draw any wrinkles, for example, if it enhances an expression, I would just draw a wrinkle there and here and there. Or if you don't draw lips, I would still, for certain expressions, I would still draw lips. And especially if it's like a funny scene where you want to exaggerate a lot, you can really just break the whole anatomy of the face and everything. Or you can also use symbols, and you really don't need to be so precious with your original
mm,
kind of design. And I found it very helpful to because I think we usually tend to stay within a very kind of safe comfort zone. But if you kind of force yourself to go out of this comfort zone and to exaggerate in a more extreme way, the whole expression might look way better than you
mm.
actually thought it could. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
my advice.
Yeah. Did you have like in the beginning when you were studying, did you have like a little bit of like reservation about like really changing the character's face and proportions when you were drawing
Yeah,
expressions?
yeah, definitely. I mean, I when I was studying expressions, they at some point they just didn't look very. They kind of look samey and didn't look
Mm,
too interesting. So I looked for like how other artists would push those expressions, and there are like a couple of things that you can really push, like even going to the corners of the mouth and really breaking the whole the whole thing of your normal style, which is kind of really fun to to play around with. And you really, I think it leads to the most interesting expressions if you go outside of your comfort zone and break your character's anatomy just to play around
mm,
with. It might really lead to super fun expressions. Yeah, ever
yeah.
since I've started breaking my characters' faces, I think the expressions got way better.
So you talked about the seven universal expressions that everyone should recognize, independent
Yes,
of like cultural background. Um,
yes.
what do you do if you have an expression that's not universal?
Yeah. I wanted to talk about that actually too, but there was no time for that because the reason why I wanted to talk about those basic expressions is because it's kind of a good starting point to practice basic features and how features work together before we actually start to mix features. And that's where
Mm,
things get a lot like fun and also kind of more ambiguous. Like not all people can read when expressions mix. So if you want to
mm,
go for expressions that are not universal and are harder to read, you mix those. Usually, when you draw comics in context, you would kind of figure out what the expression is supposed to tell you, or maybe you want to kind of hide what the expression is supposed to tell you. I would maybe do a couple of examples, but we don't really have time. I'll just do a really quick one. Let's say
oh
we
yeah,
have
go ahead.
anger and okay, I don't have to rush. Okay, it's cool. We have, for example, anger and happiness. It's like I really like to mix those two. And this is an expression that not everyone would probably recognize. not every culture probably, but this is usually what we associate with cruelty. This is so fun to draw, but it might not be like universally readable. And this usually happens when emotions mix. So you can have all those universal expressions and then mush them together and see what interesting things you come up with. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yes, we are unfortunately out of time at this point. We could
Too
probably keep
bad.
talking for a while
Yeah.
longer. But
There's so
thank you
much
so
more to
much.
say.
Yes, there is. I mean, you have like the whole character expression sheet for Cat Oz. So, yeah,
That's true.
that probably could have
Animals.
been.
Yep.
We probably could have gone on for a while. But thank you so much for your time today and presenting
Yeah.
this great
Thank
workshop
you. I
and
had
so
so
many
much fun.
details on
Yeah.
this
Thank you
on
so
this
much.
topic. All
Yeah. I hope
right.
everyone had fun too.
Yeah, I'm sure like the chat was on fire. All right.
I hope so.
Um, Before we go, don't forget to follow Miyuli on all of her social media. You can see it on screen right now. And that is also the wrap for this character design workshop. Thank you so much for everyone who was attending, and we hope you enjoyed these sessions. We had some amazing artists present, and we hope you learned a lot with this. If you missed any of the sessions, don't worry, they will be uploaded to the Graphicsly YouTube channel later on, so you can definitely watch them again later and refresh everything you've learned. There is so much information there, so no worries, you can do it at your own pace. We will stay live for another hour roughly, so you have time to enter the giveaway. You will find the link in the chat and you can check for more details there. Do let the moderators know if you have any questions. The winners will be announced on Graphicsly's social media and in the newsletter in a few days. So yes, once again, thank you all so much. Thank you, Miyuli, for your workshop today. And we look forward to the next time we're able to do something like this. So once again, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.